Aloha everyone. In this guide we will be going through 3 quick tips that will instantly improve your academic writing. This comes from a lot of my experience marking assignments and seeing the kind of mistakes that students tend to make consistently. Full disclosure, many of the points that I make here are actually adapted from this article by Umberto Eco in the MIT Press Reader, originally intended for PhD students, but adapted by me for a more general audience. Tip number 1, avoid writing overly long sentences. Now it's important to keep your sentences short and simple and avoid long run-on sentences with multiple clauses. Consider how you might break down your paragraphs so it's more digestible. Here's an example of a run-on sentence. It says that Thanos, the genocidal humanoid alien who is the villain in both Avengers films and considered to be the only being ever to possess all of the Infinity Stones simultaneously, was fought and defeated in an alternative timeline after time travel was discovered in a miraculous moment of genius by Playboy weapons manufacturer Tony Stark and the climactic final act of Avengers Endgame. Now consider when I read this, I was almost out of breath because there's not many opportunities for the reader to actually pause with a full stop. It's just running on, and running on. Here's an example of how you might break this sentence down. Thanos was a genocidal humanoid alien who's the villain in both Avengers films. He is considered to be the only being ever to possess all of the Infinity Stones simultaneously. Following the discovery of time travel by Tony Stark, Thanos was fought and defeated in an alternative timeline at the end of Avengers Endgame. Hopefully you can agree with me that the second example here is a more digestible version of the same information. Tip number 2, keep your language simple. What I mean by that is that often I see that students think that they will sound smarter if they use bigger, more complicated words. And the truth is that really the smartest people writing the smartest writing do it in a way that's as clear and simple as possible while retaining all of the important information. So you're not trying to sacrifice information, you're just actually communicating the same stuff, but in a way that's simple and really clear. So clarity is really the most important thing when you're doing academic writing. Here's an example of something that's not quite clear. I'll read it out for you. It is serendipitous that the clinical initiators are acquainted with the cultural procedures significant to the indigenous population. That's quite a mouthful. Let's look at a more simplified version that's basically saying the same thing. Fortunately, social workers are familiar with the cultural practices that are important to Māori. These two things are trying to say the same thing, but the student in the above example is trying to sound smart with all this complicated language that's actually not helping it sound smarter at all because it's unnecessarily complicated. When you're first starting off with academic writing, it can be really intimidating to make each paragraph really count and have a clear purpose. So in order to actually mitigate that, it could be useful to use something called teal. So teal is just one way to structure your paragraphs. It's not the only way to structure paragraphs, but again, when you're just starting out, I think this is the easiest, most effective structure to follow. So this is what it looks like. You have a topic sentence that has the main idea and theme of the paragraph. Following that, you'll have some kind of explanation of the topic. Then you might use evidence or an example or both, okay? And then you might actually link it back to the main argument. So the main argument might be the main idea of the entire essay or that section of your assignment. I'll give you some examples in the next slide. Here is an example of a paragraph that is effectively using the teal structure. It starts off with a topic sentence that reads, "For pet owners, cats are lower maintenance than dogs." This is a declarative statement that is the topic of the whole paragraph, and the rest of the paragraph is in service to this main purpose. So again, that first topic sentence is the purpose of the paragraph. This is followed by an explanation. This is partly because cats are more solitary animals and will demand less of your attention compared to dogs, which are pack animals. Moreover, cats clean themselves and bury their excrement, which dogs cannot do. Lastly, cats are smaller animals and thus require less food and water. Here we have the explanation. This is just unpacking or trying to justify that first topic sentence that cats are lower maintenance than dogs. And then after that, there's actually this example sentence here where it says, for example, a cat may only eat 1 cup of dry food a day, whereas an average sized dog will require at least twice that amount. So this is an example just like you see in the second E in the teal structure. Lastly, we have that linking sentence. It says, thus low maintenance is one reason why one might consider cats as preferable to dogs. So this is actually linking to the wider purpose of this whole essay. And let's say that I'm actually writing an essay trying to convince you that cats are just generally better than dogs. Well, this is one paragraph which talks about why cats are better than dogs because of low maintenance. So we're linking back to the purpose of the whole essay. Number 4 is a bonus tip. It's simply just to read more widely. So if you are exposed to a wider range of reading, a high quality writing rather, then your own writing is going to get better by association. You'll be more exposed to different ways of communicating and expressing yourself, and also have a wider vocabulary as well. So I highly recommend that. Anyway, that concludes this guide. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you can use these tips in your own writing, and good luck.